Okay, I'm going to attempt to explain overhead one more time. Let's say you're a house builder. So here's my 3 houses I'm going to build. I'm starting these, and these are the 3 houses I'm building during the year, all at different times. So what I want to do is charge the people for these houses based on the materials. So let's assume the direct materials in this one are 10,000. I'm not sure why I have red there, but I do. Okay. And, well, I'll make that 10,000. Direct labor, I keep track of everyone's time that they're spending on the house. So I have maybe a worker who spends 8 hours a day for so many days, and I have direct labor of 20,000. I've got a cheap house going on here. This house is quite a bit bigger than this house, so it has 90,000 of materials. And it has direct labor of, let's say, 40,000. Get that to going. This one has direct materials. It's a little bit bigger than this house, so this one has direct materials of, let's say, 20,000. And it has direct labor of, let's say, 30,000. Okay, so and here's my problem now. I have a pickup truck that I drive to the job site. I have saws that I use in all 3 houses. I have supervisor that comes and supervises all of those. I have a secretary at the office. I have phone bills. I have all this stuff that I need to split between these 2 houses if I plan to make a profit. I know that I could charge $1 million for every house, and I'll know I make a profit. But what if I really want to know what these houses cost me so I can charge it out? That's where the overhead account comes in. So think about the overhead account as a bucket. Okay, so I've got a bucket going on here. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, so I've got a bucket going on here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, every time I have a bill that needs to be split between these 3 houses, I'm going to put that bill in the bucket. So I get my electric bill, I put it in the bucket. I get my, I buy a saw, I put the depreciation on that saw in the bucket. I use depreciation because the saw may last me 10 years and I'm only allocating 1 year. That's quite a long saw life, but I'm only allocating 1 year of that, so I'm spreading the cost over 10. So it's the depreciation on that saw. I have property taxes on my main building. I have the depreciation on my truck. I have the gas on my truck. I have the liability insurance, etc., etc. So I've got all these overhead accounts. Now, if I could wait till the end of the year, and in a perfect world, I would simply start houses in January and finish houses by December. But if that was a perfect world and I did that, I would simply add all these up, and then I would split it between these 3 houses. I could divide by 3. That would be one way to get it between the 3 houses, but hopefully you'll look at it and think that makes no sense. This one should get the most overhead, because this one I had the most hours that my saw was using, so I had laborers working on there. My secretary spent more time on it, so this one seems like it should get more. So overhead allocation is, how do I split this amount up? How am I going to split this amount between the 3 houses? You have to pick some reasonable method to do that. So what I could do is I've added all these up. So let's say it's 300,000. Okay, if I divided it by 3, it'd be 100,000 in each house. But I may say, well, I'd like to do it based on direct materials. I would like to allocate it. The house that has the most direct materials, I want to give the most cost. So I've got, it looks like I have 100,000 there, but I meant that to be 10,000. I don't know if I can ditch that or not, but anyway, so I've got 10,000 here, and 90,000, so that's 100,000, and 120,000. So I'm going to divide this by 120,000. Oops, can't get the silly thing to work. Okay, so I'm going to divide this by 120,000, and so now I'm going to split it up. For every dollar of materials, it gets X amount of whatever in the heck that is of overhead costs, and I split it up like that. My problem is I might finish this house in April, and this house in June, and this house in October, and I want to bill them before the year is out. So how in the heck do I do that? Well, the answer is this 300,000 is not an actual. This 300,000 is now becomes an estimate. So at the beginning of the year, I estimate it. So in this case, I'm going to have estimated manufacturing overhead divided by estimated base. So that becomes my factory overhead. So estimated manufacturing overhead divided by your estimated base. If I had perfect knowledge, I would take 300,000 divided by 120,000. But at the beginning of the year, I've got to guess. So now for every direct material dollar in this case, I'm going to give it whatever this estimate is. Okay, so to end up then, whenever you estimate anything, you have to settle up at year end. So this becomes a holding account. So think of it now, if I can get this to go in here, think of it now as a bucket with two sides. So here's my other side of the bucket. I'll redraw my bucket in green. Okay, so now I have a bucket with two sides. Okay, on this side, I'm going to put in the actual bills when they become due. So these are the bills. And this over here on this side, right there, on my other side, is how much I'm actually splitting up. So let's say that it only takes me a few days to build a house, and so I've got $2 of overhead for every dollar of direct materials, so that's $20,000. So what happens is I've spread out the $20,000 to the house already, but I haven't got a bill yet because it's only 2 weeks into the year. How come I can allocate something that I don't have yet? Because I know I'm going to get it. So at the end of the year, if I keep putting in actual on this side and taking out the estimate on this side, if I have perfect knowledge, my bucket will be empty. Okay? It's not going to be empty, so I have to dispose of it. And I dispose of it to cost of goods sold. So think of my bucket now as debits and credits. Okay, here's where I'm going to put the actual, and here's where I'm going to put the estimate. Okay, and the estimate is also called the applied. All right, so I'm going to divvy it out based on an application base. If my actual, this side, is over my applied, okay, let me talk it the other way. Here, say at the applied side. Here's my applied. I should put a P. Here's actual. Okay. If my applied side is under my actual, so in this case, this is 0 and this is 100. I'm under applied. If my applied side is over my actual, so I've got 1,000 over here and 100 over here, or you could say, okay, that nets out to 900 over here. So I can balance it out. Now I'm over applied. My applied side is over. I just got to zero it out because it's a holding account. Okay, so now I zero it out. If I had a perfect world, I'd divvy it up between the three houses. Okay, but let's say there was $1 million in here. Do you want to spend time divvying up $900? And the answer is no. You just throw it to the easiest place possible. So I need to zero this out. So I'm going to debit manufacturing overhead because this has a credit balance. So I debit manufacturing overhead for $900 and I throw it into the easiest thing possible. So I'm debiting manufacturing overhead for $900 and I'm crediting cost of goods sold. I didn't leave much room there, did I? For $900. Notice cost of goods sold is an expense account, and I've just credited an expense account, which reduces an expense account. So hopefully that helps. If manufacturing overhead had a debit balance, I would need to credit to zero it out, and I throw it to cost of goods sold because that's the easiest place. Now, if my manufacturing overhead account was 9,000 out of, let's say, 20,000, then you can see, wow, it's quite a bit off. Okay, and in that case, I am going to have to divvy it up. I'm going to have to divvy it up between these three houses. I'm going to have to divvy it up between work in process and finished goods. I'm going to have to divvy it up because right over here, my estimate at the beginning of the year was so far off, I have to fix it. So I hope that helps.